Hello and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. Well, for those that were expecting the live show, apologies, had a bit of technical issues. Um, Long story short, the Wi-Fi or internet seems to be dipping too much. I actually had a client reading before the live and had a lot of issues. So let's get into the show. So we'll do this as a record. I have come up with new information. Quick note, true crime events, mature nature. This may be triggering to some viewers. Please be warned. Some of the material will be graphic. And each case is treated as alleged. These are my opinions and would need to be tested in a court of law. For all those jumping in on part 5, there's a part 3. These are the recent ones, and a part 4. For this episode, part 5, I did receive new information. But just to get us started, I created a new slide with the four students, let's say, Ethan, Kaylee, Zaina, and Madison. And I've put Brian's details there just so we've got it. So this was an impact test that I had a look here. Who was impacted the most, and what happened, There's been a lot of comments, obviously, about the case since I've been doing these uploads. And of course, speculation is wide. And that's why I try not to read too much of the news. I try to keep the source as pure as possible, if you like. And as I said, Zaina and Ethan have been around. My whole clock today has just been way off, and not a lot of syncing up going on prior to today or earlier today. So there is a beautiful love story happening in amongst this chaos as well, by the way. And that, of course, is of Ethan and Zaina, how Ethan with his 25-7, we see it there, a reflection the day after the 14th, 25-7, and the 16-7, fought a valiant fight, and all in the protection of Zaina. And again, I'm still picking up that 14-5 is they were attacked by a group of people. This wasn't Brian on his own. Now, sticking my head out here again, which is nothing unusual around this case, because anything we say actually could be way off. In my opinion, Brian had contact with Kaylee, in my opinion. If I look at the impact report here with the numbers, I would say there's more of a likelihood that Brian... So let me tell you what I'm getting to. I'm getting a sense of people split. There's a group that attacks, right? But they split, going for their intended person, right? And I believe Brian had chosen Kaylee. However, I would say Madison was the most impacted by this event. I mean, we can see in her day the 12-3 matches the outcome of the 13th. That is like a perfect match. And then we have the 15-6 in the day. So already, because the crime happened so early, and in my opinion, just to answer a question, not to jump off the line, that is, I believe the murders would have happened after post-midnight, not before. So there's speculation that they died before and the bodies were placed on that day. I believe the killing only began earliest would be midnight, earliest, midnight, not the day before. So we see that 15-6 also direct impact on Madison, although the 24-6 would say, yeah, there was a group attack, etc., but I would say Madison was a serious target here. So I had a question, because this now reminds me of Hope and Happiness, 777. I hope you don't mind me shining a little light on your message. Thank you. I do read all of them. Were Ethan and Zaina targeted? So to answer the question there, I don't believe they were targeted. They were part of, and I believe the word I used in my very first reading was proximity. And I'll go deeper into the impact. I know we've briefly touched on it now, but I'll go deeper into the impact, because we'll note, and if I just go back there now, and I'll come back to your question. If we look on the right-hand side, Ethan, Zaina, and Kaylee have similar hit numbers, if you like. So it's 2 at the bottom, 2 at the bottom. Of course, Kaylee has the additional 3. But we know, for example, one was sleeping with the other as friends or whatever, but wasn't sleeping in her room that night, right? So, but Madison, we've got the 25-7, which is reflecting on the day after as well. As mentioned, the 33-12-3, the 3, and then the 15-6. And to me, so this is serious impact for Madison. If anyone was the target, I would say Madison was the ultimate target. Extremely detrimental for her on that day. We've got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 direct hits on her. Not very nice. But let's just have a look here. So were they first? All right, let's have a look here. Technically, it doesn't matter. I suppose it does matter, but yeah, of course, from a case law point of view, it will matter. Now, you'll recall at the beginning, I mentioned that 25-7 and that 16-7. There's that fight for the death. And I would say Ethan was standing in front of Zaina, protecting her against or kneeling in bed, whatever the situation was. But he would have put himself in front of the perp to save Zaina. And that's a beautiful story, beautiful love story. And they both fought valiantly. So, yeah. Now, let's look at Brian in this situation, right? Because I've been seeing a lot of messages, and of course, I don't want to be too influenced. But was Brian ultimately at the core of this attack, and what part was his role, greater or lesser, right? So, of course, we already have the 11-2, which is the month, and the same month that he's born in. And these attacks happened before his birthday, where we see that 21-3. Now, that 21-3, that's that badass number, right? Especially in a murder situation. We have that 23-5, which is very present on the day before. So between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., that 23-5 is present during the day. Okay. So that could be him, for example, driving around. According to police reports, and by the way, I've tried to kind of dissolve what I know about the crime scene and the crime reports, because sometimes that ain't always exactly what it is, because in fairness, I would say, on the one hand, in fairness, the police don't want to give too much away because that's their, I don't know, ace up their sleeve, whatever you want to call it. So let's accept that as part of a reason that the information we know is not all that we know or is available. Having said that, I believe there's a lot of layers going on in here. And Zana would just say, like an onion, layers, layers, layers. So if we're getting back to Brian, that 32.5 sits in the middle of the day. So he's around. Now remember, there's a build-up to this morning. Brian having that 32.5, which is the reverse. Now, that 32.5 we see as the outcome. Now, that 32.5 we see as the outcome of the 15th of November, which sits in the middle of Brian there. Now, the 32.5 as well as that 23.5, those are terrible. Well, let's just say the 32.5 is destruction, right? Is destruction. Not very nice. And that 37.10.1, now that 37, that for me is quite I keep getting a bad sense of that number. It's almost like serial killerish, like murderous, like serial murderous, like not very nice. And I've just been given the phrase, and they hunt in packs. And they hunt in packs. All right, going back to hope and happiness here. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, them being brought to the commune there doesn't work for me. So that's quite interesting because I've seen a couple of comments about there's this tight-knit community. There's little groups running around doing their things. There's one thing I want to say about Madison being targeted. And I'm going to raise it now. And I actually mentioned this number in a previous recent update on this case. And that is the presence of the 15.6. Now, we could argue that Brian is older by 8 years out of these people. 8 years. I suppose in a university and a young life point of view, 20 versus 30 is regarded as old. But of course, my age and older think, well, it's almost the same, right? But technically it is older. So the 15.6 could say, well, it is saying to me, and this is why I'm raising it as a flag, because the 15.6, if you look at Madison's profile there, 15.6, I believe this is the older male that has come looking for her, possibly rejected, coming for her. Now, technically, I would say Brian could fit that, but I don't think he did fit that. And there was mention in the comments and posts during these shows that there was another lecturer or teacher from the university or something to that effect. And I was hoping to ask this question during the live because I don't want to go deep delve in research and then I get bombarded with other information. So I was going to ask, I'm sure I read a comment there. There's an older lecturer, teacher involved here. And I would say from the university as well. There's definitely an older male on the scene here, directly linked to Madison. So while I was looking at these numbers again, I did receive some messages, and I'm going to go through them now. And there's some quite daunting ones, by the way, I must tell you. All right, so we go into the slide here, famous picture, well, that's becoming a famous picture again. So while meditating on this picture, and I was getting messages, so I'm going to start on the right here, revenge killing. That is a word I was given by Spirit through Zona, I believe, revenge killing. I will say hope, sorry, I'm just getting your name, hope and happiness. So having read your message, literally a few minutes before reading your message, I was given this message. At least 2 bodies were moved post-event, but within the home. So, for example, they wouldn't have been murdered outside the house and brought in. They were murdered already inside the house, but their positions were changed inside the house for some reason. 2 bodies were moved post-event. And I'm getting a sense, and that's what it is. It's been pinging on me. I'm getting a visual here. There's certainly direction given by, and I believe Brian, to 2 other people about how the bodies should be positioned. I believe Brian, so the message was Brian did the one upstairs. That is the one he wanted. And I believe, based on numerology, I would say that it would be Kaylee. But it still means there's something, there's another male here on the scene as well, hey? And someone did mention in a post, and I beg your pardon if I forgot the name, but the question you asked me is actually, it could be the reverse. There could be a male on the scene, but with feminine energy. Or alternatively, I think that's what you said, alternatively, you could have a female with male energy. Right? So if we look at the famous picture, I've got a new picture here of them standing outside that back entrance here, funny enough, that you could have a female that has male energy. Okay? So I believe for whatever purpose, and to be quite honest, I'll just try to go there now, and to be quite honest, I've been finding it very difficult to let go and go back into that scene. It's quite detrimental for anyone, I would imagine, but at least to say quite horrific. So there was a message, she let him in. Now get the next part. Male enters and says, "Are you ready?" He looks asking, looking at her clothing, which looks dark gray in the night. Now that image that I'm seeing could also suggest the possibility that there's goggles being worn here, night goggles of the type or of that nature. So I believe Brian was let in from the inside. And yes, I think the next message tops it all, I think, right? This slide here. I believe I heard Zana saying, "We didn't say anything about you." Zana said this. to the people in her room. We didn't say anything about you. I was hoping to get some interaction on the show, to get extra questions here, because these were the new messages that I got over the past 48 hours. It feels like it's moving away from me again for the time being, or at least I did find a picture of the reverse of the house. I made this. Remember, I said there's two people that derobed at the back. And I saw a glimpse Brian walking away post-event along there. And then Dylan walking back inside. Now, when she walks in there, she says to Beth, "Get back inside, stay inside." It's a terrible situation, yeah. So I don't want to drag the reading out too long, but those are the new messages that I received. And yeah, man, what a terrible, terrible case. And to be quite honest and frank, I don't believe we'll know everything, because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. And let me just see, this happened in the 6th year. This is the second time I've been asked this. Will everything be revealed? It's going to take time, though. There's potentially some big surprises coming along this case. I know I mentioned in the previous video 25/7, but there's some big, let's say, bombshells. Okay, I'm getting a sense of, I did a reading for the young African student that was found murdered by the tennis courts there. We definitely have the presence of higher learning. The fives would be higher learning as well. And that's why I'm saying that 15/6, Kuberger is older, but there's definitely older people on the senior here. And so much so, and what I mean by that is, because there's older people, and I'm also saying 20-year-olds don't know what they're doing. Of course, they will know what they're doing. But these people were old enough that they knew what they were doing was wrong, obviously, right? And it's not just some 20-year-olds that took some hectic drug and ended up killing everyone, right? What's that movie, that old Vietnam movie back in the 90s, Jacob's Ladder, where the American soldiers all took LSD, but they ended up killing each other, right? So, but not very nice. All right, so I hope it will all make sense one day for us, including myself, and the court case will come to a closure, at a finality at a certain point. But it's not going to be easy getting there. So we'll keep our eyes on the case, and see you then. Please stay safe and stay alert, and I'll see you in the next one.